Hi, my name is Shauna Fannin and I'm a director at Carrick, Athena, and I just wanted to welcome you to the first of our 10-part series on investments, what they're all about, how to unpack them, what good returns are, what bad returns are, etc. And why did we decide to start doing this YouTube series? Simply because there's so many women that we meet on a daily basis who are really trying to find out about investing. They find that the investment industry is a little bit closed off to them. We're not sure whether to invest onshore or offshore, what a good return is, what kind of structure you should hold your investments in, and whether that's going to give you the very best solution to your investments. So I'd like to welcome you to this investment series and unpack these things with us. Carrick Athena is a financial advisory wealth firm for women by women, and that's really because on a daily basis I meet women who have inherited wealth, but they're not entirely sure what to do next with it. They don't feel equipped. As women, we tend to be quite conservative with our choices, and we feel quite concerned that our knowledge within the investment world isn't sufficient enough in order for us to make good decisions. So we quite often get stunted with that and go for a very, very conservative approach when it comes to our investments. I meet loads of women who have kids and they're just trying to get through the day, and they really just want to know, am I on the right track? Am I doing the right things? Am I going to have enough money for my kids down the line? And then I also meet women who have left a toxic relationship, and I really applaud you with that because that's extremely hard. But for all of these different types of women, and there's many other stories, we all have our own story, but for all of these different type of women, we kind of feel left out in the cold, left to fend for ourselves. And it's as though the financial services industry just hasn't really given us an option or given us a solution with which to engage in and with. So what we wanted to do with Carrick Athena was really to just try and start closing the investment gap, making sure that women were invested, that they understood how investments worked, that they felt confident in terms of the way they were going about investing, and really made sure that their money was growing. So this YouTube series is really just to make sure that you've got a way of engaging with financial services, that you can ask the questions, that you don't feel out in the cold, that you don't feel singled out, but in many ways you can start understanding and start unpacking how all of these things fit together. So welcome, and thank you very, very much for joining us. So it's really time to close the investment gap, and it's time to change the industry. I mean, oddly enough, women and finance has been around for many, many years. It's just quite strange that we haven't actually engaged with it. And quite often that happens because we don't feel that the people we're talking to really understand whom we are and what it is that we're trying to get out of the financial services industry. So women tend to be goal-focused. We tend to think of a goal like retirement or getting our kids through school, and then we work back from there. We think of a number and we work back from there. And it's really time to change that discussion, because at the end of the day, you are you. You define who you are, not your surname, not your married name, not whom your family wants you to be, but you, your goals, your aspirations, what it is that you want to achieve and where it is that you want to be. And money and having money gives you options, and it gives you choices. It gives you the options to purchase a house or start a new business or have children or possibly leave that toxic relationship that you shouldn't be in any longer. So this is the first part of the series, as I've mentioned a few times now, and we're not going to be able to cover it all. This is really just a basic introduction to investing, and we'll unpack it in subsequent series. So I invite you to this 10-part series, which is really to invite you to have a seat at the financial decision-making table at home, and not only to have a seat at that financial decision-making table, but to make sure that you have a voice when you get to that table. This particular series or this particular episode is going to just be broken down into 3 different sections. Step 1, why you need to have your own money and why that's so important. Step 2, how to invest that money and considerations that you need to take into account. And then step 3, what to do next. Step 1 is about having your own money. As a woman, we have lives that are filled with very many pivotal moments, and they change absolutely everything, whether it's having children or getting married, possibly getting divorced, looking after your parents. We are socialized to nurture, which means we are socialized to take care of everybody around us. We're not socialized to generally just make our investments fly. And when these pivotal moments happen, they really affect us quite severely, and we're not entirely sure where to turn at those points. So having your own money and having control of your own money is absolutely essential. It really means that it gives you the ability to make decisions when you need to and based on what your circumstances are at that particular time. By having and controlling your own money, it opens a world of options and choices to you. Options and choices like being able to buy your own house, or send your kids to the school that you choose to send them to, or possibly starting your own business, or maybe leaving that toxic relationship that you shouldn't be in. Having money provides you the options and the choices to choose whichever life that you personally want to live. So step 2, get invested. What does that actually mean? Well, getting invested means that you're going to reach your goals that much faster. If you had to consider working every single day for the rest of your life in order to make sufficient means to get your kids through school, retire with enough money, go on all the holidays that you'd like to, etc., you'd be working non-stop 24 hours a day and you might still not get there. So getting invested means that your money starts to work for you. We've all heard that, but what does that actually mean? Well, that really comes down to the types of returns that you're going to get on your investment. The size of the return is really, really important because that really indicates how big that add-on's going to be. The larger the return, the larger the add-on's going to be. And that means the less you're going to have to work for the rest of your life. And understanding that concept is really, really important. It's what investing is all about, essentially. So let me just picture it or put it in a different way. If we could have an amount of money that was earning enough return and you could live off that return, then you'd be financially free. Let's picture a bag of wealth. Here it is, my bag of wealth. And this bag of wealth contains everything I own. It has my house, it has my retirement, it has my savings, it has my car, my fancy shoes, whatever it is. It contains absolutely everything. And if you could invest this bag of wealth, everything you own, at a certain return, and it would generate enough interest for you to live off, then you would be financially free. So what we're trying to do is we're not wanting to touch this bag of wealth. What we're wanting to do is make sure that whatever interest we're earning or whatever return we're earning on this bag of wealth is covering what it is that we need on a month-by-month basis. And if we can create that scenario where we're never having to tap into this bag of wealth, but we're just living off that interest. If we can create that scenario, it means we're financially free. We're never going to have to worry about money ever again. And that's it. That's investing. There's nothing more to it. It's as simple as that. Everything else to do with investing is really about optimizing these 3 components. The bag of wealth, what kind of return you're getting, and what you're doing with that growth, with that interest. That's all there is to it. Really, really simple, nothing fancy. So there's many ways that you can do this, and that's why the financial industry actually exists. And as women, we tend to feel like we lack confidence in terms of what we're saying and what our knowledge is and advocate that we actually know what's going on. So what we tend to do, the majority of women, sadly, take all of their funds, their entire bag of wealth, and they put it into a savings account. Because the banks are going to take care of you, right? Well, no, they're not going to take care of you. An average savings account will give you a return of about 5%. I know it's slightly higher at the moment because of inflation, but on average, over a 10-year period, it's about 5%. And that's not keeping up with inflation. What is inflation? Well, inflation is the cost of living. We know that rent goes up from year to year. We know that petrol's gone up and electricity. I'm not going to get into that right now, but essentially, we know that the cost of living increases. And we need to make sure that whatever money we're making is keeping up in line with inflation. So that's really, really important. So let's go back to that concept. We've got this bag of wealth and it's invested in our savings account at 5%. And we've got our return that we're generating there. Great, we're set up. Except that inflation is 6%. So suddenly it means that your returns aren't actually covering your expenses. It means that we're starting to have to eat away at this bag of wealth. And when you start eating away at that bag of wealth, it means that at some point you potentially might run out of money. Or alternatively, you're going to have to decrease your expenses. So that's really what you want to measure up. And when you're thinking about an investment vehicle and you're looking at just savings, savings is only going to give you the most conservative return that you can get. So when you're looking at investments, you're wanting to have something that's beating savings, that's beating the rand depreciation, which we'll get into in another series, and that's making sure that after tax, your bag of wealth is generating enough money for you to live off the rest of your life. So this brings me to step 3 and what to do next. So I think probably a few stats are quite important here. Money is the number one cause of stress in women's lives. And yet we seem to do this really strange thing. We doubt ourselves and we doubt our ability to make choices about our financial situations. So we defer that power to our other halves, spouses, partners, brothers, fathers, sisters, whomever it may be, but we decide that we're not going to take control of that. And then we become quite anxious about the fact that we don't control our money. And we're not entirely sure that this person we've deferred this power to knows what they're doing either. So it's kind of a vicious circle. So having your own money and having control of your own money is absolutely essential. 74% of women will die single, whether that's because they didn't get married, or they became divorced, or they were widowed, whatever the case is. 74% is a high number. If you think about whether it's going to rain or not, 40% chance of rain, you take a jacket and an umbrella out and you make sure that you're ready to go. I'm talking about 74% of women that will die single. Having control of your money is absolutely essential, and knowing how it works is absolutely essential. You have 2 choices. You can either, maybe it's 3 choices, you can either not have control of your money, you can work the rest of your life and hope you can save enough, or you can get invested and make this start working for you. So what to do next? You've already started. You need to continue this journey, and I invite you to join us on the rest of this 10-part series. The next episode is going to be returns and the various factors that influence them. I promise it's a lot more interesting than I've just made it sound, so do come and join us on that. If you're uncertain of where to start and you want to get started today, then open a savings account. I know I said a moment ago that savings accounts are not the best place to begin, but remember step 1 in this process was have control of your own money. So if you don't have control of your own money, then that's the place to start. Next thing to do is finish these episodes, understand about investments, ask us questions. We're right here. We're women. We totally understand the pivotal moments that you're going through, and we want to help. But go through the tutorials. Once you've gone through them, you'll be able to make more considered decisions about growth-orientated investments and how that all works. It's very, very simple, and I'll just remind you again. It's a bag of wealth, everything you own, invested at a certain rate of return that's going to generate you enough for you to live on a month-by-month basis. And it applies to everything. If you're thinking about property, if that sum doesn't make sense, then property probably isn't the right choice. If it's a savings account and that sum doesn't make sense, then maybe the savings account isn't the right choice. And we'll unpack this going forward. We'll have some investments that are very conservative, we'll have some investments that are more growth-orientated, and I'll explain to you how all of those work. Lastly, I want to leave you with the knowledge that you are not alone. There's many women out there who are in exactly the same boat, and that's why we started Carrick Athena. We encourage you to save, grow, and live the life that you want to live. Carrick Athena is a wealth advisory for women, by women, and I thank you for joining us.